Hey, welcome back. How y'all living out here? Out here we say a good vach, a good week. Some of y'all say Shavua Tov. Let's get to the actions. Let's make some mitzvahs. We're here to learn, but as we're going to talk about tonight, one of the things that we're going to make sure that we're doing going forth is we need action. You know, I told you on Friday, knowing is half the battle, right? So we know that we have to know something before we can apply it. But if we don't apply our teaching and serve God with simple hearts, it doesn't matter what our intellectual capability may be. This is like another balance that we're finding out. To be I don't know if the word is spiritual warriors. We need to be intellectually capable. But those who serve God with a simple heart and just do his commandments are those who excel over one who's learning all day. From a beautiful story that I read, and we will share it later. So you can read all the books you want about love, but you just need to love people. You can read all the books that you want about Tefillin and Jewish observance. The way you're going to arrive there is by doing it. Okay, this is an intellectual race. This is a combination and learning and then applying. Uh, I want to farbring with you again. Oh boy, oh boy. You know, I'm still trying to figure out the audience that we're trying to reach because you know, we want to have the music, we want to have the lights. Uh, we are going to get into the Chabad Nagunim. We're not going to do that quite tonight, but we are going into that. And I promise you that I feel particularly led. I am a musician by trade, and doing some reflection last night. I think the Rebbeim, they can get their words across because they're printed and they're in many different languages. And there are, we're so blessed to have so many people that are intellectual in the community. And the Rabbanim are just amazingly able and capable to do so many things along this. But the Rabbanim want their music out there too. These Chabad Rebbeim, they were splendid and are splendid, amazing musicians. And with God's help, I'll be able to bring some of that glory and grandeur to you sometime very soon here. Let us jump right in. Let's practice what we preach. Let's say, L'chaim. When I said our audience here, you know, oh boy, the audience. I'll tell you more about it in a second. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be before you, O Lord, my strength, my redeemer. As is customary, I'm going to pull the e-brake this week. I'm going to switch things up a little bit, but let's begin the week with a bracha for the children and special success for Sfias Hashem. We've learned that the children are going to be able to see Geula. So I've tried to make it part of the program. When we started with Malava Malka FARBRENGEN and in general my program, I was not going to make it open to children. It was going to be an adult-based program that was only for adults. But right now we want to bless the children so that you should be able to complete your mission, that you should continue to have blessed success and just grandiose ability to be able to see Gula in a way like never before. And also bless all of us parents so that we give our kids the right ability to do that and be the Gula that they need to see. L'chaim, l'chaim. I already said a bracha. With that in mind, let's there's a lot of things going on in Arizona. Want to say thank you to Rabbi Levertov and Mrs. Levertov for 49 years of service. Um, it's anniversary in Phoenix, and this is just a beautiful thing. And my hat continually goes off to Rabbi Levertov. And as we're going to look later about how much work that these rabbis put into their students and how much work is really required of us in that teacher-student relationship. I literally laugh at myself when I look at Arizona. I don't know how Arizona put up with me from the door. And I still, to this day, don't know how I put up with myself or my wife or you. But we're grateful for these hearts, and we're grateful for the ability to be able to share and spread the well springs of Chassidus and these wonderful opportunities that we have. Um, the beginning of the program, I'm still going to keep it light. Let's go into a little bit of portions of light. We have Terumah, so let's just start right there because I want to keep it like light at the beginning for those who have a shorter ability to watch, or if you're doing a little less learning at this point. So if you listen for, let's say, now you're at 7 minutes. If you give me another 3 minutes, would be great. If you could give me another 13 minutes, will be great. For those of you who are able to make it to the 2 and the 3 hour mark, we'll see if I can stand that long tonight. Ultimately, we should be able to do 5 hours. Parshas Terumah. So we'll start with the smaller inklings that we can digest, the little smaller parts. And then we'll continue to get deeper, and then we'll get deeper, and then we'll get deeper. And this is how we want to make sure that the message is getting across to everyone. We just don't want to be there for the extremely informed or the very highly educated or those who are not, and vice versa. We want to be able to reach you all, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Sources of inspiration is Parsha Terumah from the Portions of Light. It says here that our sages declared, ever since the Holy Temple was destroyed, all that God has in his world is the 4 cubits of halakha, Jewish law. Their wording is precise. They did not state that God is found in the teachings of halakha or in its application. Rather, they emphasize it's called a dalet amot, this 4 cubits of halakha, meaning the physical space within which halakha is found. This is to be understood as follows. The term for Jewish law, halakha, derives from the verb halak, to go, to proceed. God is present. Remember when we were talking on Friday about the Mahalach? It's interesting that it's amazing how God connects and just brings everything right together for us. Remember that the content is controlled. So everything is kind of still available, perhaps unlisted. If you need or looking for a link that I've sent you previously and you would like to continue along with that, feel free to just ask. Or feel to reach out. It's 602-338-0129. No problem. And we can get you. But the concept of Mahalach, we were talking about on Friday. But like I said, the material, we're just going to focus on this right now because anybody who wants to come, if you want to hear any learning for this time, you don't need to go back to Friday at this point. We're starting from this point right here. And then if you complete this, there's plenty that's here for you. And then if you need more, we can go back to that. Or if you have a question or comment, feel free to do that. So the term for Jewish law, halakha, which is a very big challenge and something that the Rebbe really wants us to do, is stay with the times and live with the times, because just clearing the Mayim Rabim, the unbreakable soul, where we're talking about Mahalech, I could literally just pick back up there where we left on Friday. But God's time is moving forward. Our abilities are moving forward. Our goals in the future are closer than ever. So we don't want to stand and be in a static position, Omed. We need to be Mahalek. We need to be men of movement. And this term for Jewish law, halakha, derives from that verb, halach. I'm not an expert in the Hebrew, but I can see this for once, which is to go, to proceed. God is present to a degree similar to his presence in the Holy Temple, within the setting that inspires a person to become a Mahalech. It's just connecting all the dots here. To proceed and advance in divine service. In other words, during exile, any setting, event, or gathering that inspires us to advance spiritually is where God's presence is to be found. So we know that God's presence is right here with us right now. Let's continue along here. It says that the Arizal taught, one of the teachers, that a very great teacher, by the way, but trying to bring it in as much as we can. The Arizal taught that the term for Jewish law, halacha, is an acronym for Hari'u Lashem Kol Haaretz. Shout joyfully to God, all the earth. Found in Psalms in the 100th chapter in the first verse. Some of you may know it as make a joyful noise to the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know he that the Lord, he is God, that is he that has made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving and enter into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him and bless his name. For the Lord is good, his mercy is everlasting, and his truth endures through all generations. This is more, I don't think if we look in Tehillim Yosef Yitzchak, that one, it might have a little bit English difference, but this is a standard, and we should remind ourselves that we're not looking back, but where we're coming from is key to where we're going. And everyone who's in this audience, uh, sometimes a lot of us have made a very sharp turn, or we think that our future may be not connected with our past. And we need to understand that wherever that we have come from, is very important for our future. And I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to have that etched into my heart and my life, and those who were able to put that there for me. And we ought not be ashamed, is all I'm trying to let you know. Wherever you had come from, whatever that you had seen, is not, of course we want to be holy and we want to be Mahelek, but it's not like you got to look back and shun where you had come from, or where you have been brought from, or where your deliverance has come from. Don't be ashamed. So this word halacha is derived from halika, proceeding. How do we proceed in our divine service? Through hari'u, shout joyfully, which also means to shatter, as in the verse. You will shatter them, tiro aim, with an iron rod, and that's in Psalms 2nd chapter, verse 9 in the Tehillim. We must break the earth, our coarse corporeality and unrefined traits. Thank y'all who are able to stay for the next minute and a half. When a student is tested on halakha, the examiner attempts to mislead him with difficult questions. Similarly, God tests our halakha, our progress in divine service, with a yetzer hara, which is our evil inclination that employs confusion and raises questions. If we are wise, we will not fall for its tricks. God will then delight in our conduct, just as a parent delights in his child who refuses to be defeated by misleading questions and passes his tests with wisdom. This week, we'll be focusing on cherish inspirational people and events. God certainly does. Let's also take a moment here and have a look at the Living with Moshiach. We're so thankful to have these resources available to us, and we're also grateful that we could have a Rebbe, and that we can have a Hashem who cares about us, and the opportunity to be able to serve God in fullness and wholeness and trust, and have this opportunity in this life. Let us continue to bring a bissel, warm yourself up, say l'chaim, grab a bissel to eat, grab a pen and paper, whatever that you need to do. L'chaim. Thank you for those who are wanting to help me out. Our audience is the world right now. If we get into a different situation where things look different, we can talk about that. I did have my boy wanted to come. He wanted to listen to this share in person tonight, and I feel kind of remiss with people. I'm more than willing to continue to help and stop talk, and we can learn. Just let me know whatever that you want to do. But sometimes with God, when he's moving, God wants to move in the private place of your life. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate that you're giving me time, and thank you for subscribing, and just thank you for your support. And I value your time, and thank you for learning with me. And we could just do this low key in the closet. You know what I'm saying? Me, you, and Hashem, and all God's people. We can all walk upright, Mahelech and Halakha, to the Most High God's kingdom. We don't gotta you don't gotta change your whole lifestyle to me or anything like that. So we're also grateful for that we can learn together, and that we have the beautiful technology and beautiful platform and the ability and the devices that we can just go in. You could plug in some headphones, or you can learn when you can, or take the time when you can, and take whatever doses that you can and apply what you can at your time. And I just continue to ask the Most High God, if He'd just let the words come out my mouth that would be appropriate for you and your growth, and your growth of your avodah and your service with God, and that your ears may hear, and that we could all be just very excited about the fact of this messianic redemption, and know what a key part and role that we play in it, and just not even these things, that it should just go into our hearts, and we should be able to move and be actionable. Be actionable. Be actionable. Don't just, we're going to learn about tefillin tonight, but we're not talking about tefillin. You need to go and pull out your tefillin bag. You need to put your tefillin on. If you don't have tefillin, you need to acquire tefillin. If you can't acquire tefillin, you need to borrow someone else's, or ask Lubavitch to help you. Actionable things. Let's look at living with Moshiach, because for us to bring and living with Moshiach, we ought to be learning about Moshiach. So for this week, it says, they shall make me a sanctuary, and I shall dwell in their midst. This is Terumah, which is the book of Shmos, which is the book of Exodus, for the 25th chapter and 8th verse. For those of you who did not understand that I'm saying an actionable thing, please get your safer right now if you can. If you're not driving, or if you're at a standstill place, or you're not familiar with where we're coming from, then it's the book of Exodus, 25th chapter, 8th verse. This is the mitzvah of building a sanctuary for the divine presence, okay? The Shekinah, okay? This mitzvah is like the way we connect with God, that God has commanded us. And we, when we do these mitzvahs, there's godly light that comes from above. And when we do these mitzvahs with these objects that seem mundane, there's a way that we connect to God from below. This is the mitzvah of building a sanctuary for the divine presence at first the tabernacle in the desert, and later the Beit HaMikdash, holy temple in Jerusalem, okay? The expression in this verse seems inconsistent. It says here that it ordains the making of a sanctuary as a dwelling for the divine presence, but then states, I shall dwell in their midst, instead of in it, in this this sanctuary, right? So our sages explain that the Torah speaks not only of a general central sanctuary for the nation, but also of an individual sanctuary to be built and established by every individual Jew. And this is what we're trying to come to you tonight about, the fact and the need for this to continue along, that you are a builder in this, and that we need your individual sanctuary, and Most High needs every individual, and there's no Jew that's outside of this. And we learned last week in the Mayim Rabim that every Jew has this innate ability to overcome whatever challenges that they have in their life. And I thank God for Rabbi Levertov. One of the most recent times that we studied, he said, if all the Jews were to go to a wall and hang up their challenges and we'd walk away, we would come back to the exact same challenges, because this is our correction and this is our life. And no matter what the challenges are that are in your life, you may not be able to shed them as we're learning in Torah. You may challenge or be fought with this or rot with this for the rest of your life, but you will overcome and you will oversee and you will do mitzvahs and you will bring down godly light and we will see greatness. Even right now, by the end of this Farbrengen, our sages explain that the Torah speaks not only of a general central sanctuary for the nation, but also of an individual sanctuary to be built and established by every individual Jew. And thank you for all the work that you're already doing, and know that you'll be blessed and things that are coming for you, and a reward and should be revealed, and the challenges, the reward will be commensurate with the challenge that you're going through. And if God has a lot on you right now, God have mercy. And for all of us that need various deliverances and miracles in our life, may we see them immediately and then respond with a reciprocal action to the Most High God for the wonderful work that he's doing in our life and the wonderful work that we're doing for him. That is, each one must transform himself and his quarters into a sanctuary for God, a place of Torah study, prayer, and charity, with effort that all one's thoughts, speech, and deeds be for the sake of heaven, and to infuse holiness into all that we relate to. This individual and private sanctuary must manifest itself as such, even on the physical level, by acquiring sacred items like the holy books of a Chumash, which is the 5 books of the Torah, and a Siddur, your prayer book, and a charity box, a Pushka, and to place these within that private sanctuary area. These 3 items in particular are the very pillars which were the foundation of the Beis HaMikdash, the Holy Temple. So it's saying here that Torah, the Beis HaMikdash, the house, the Holy Ark, which contained the 2 tablets on which were engraved the 10 Commandments. Indeed, the Holy Temple stood on Mount Moriah. Moriah alludes to the term Hara'ah, which means instruction about the Torah's laws that emanated from there to all of Israel by means of the Sanhedrin, Supreme Court, which was located there. Tefillah, prayer. All sacrifices were offered in the Beis HaMikdash, and our prayers are the substitute for the sacrifices. Let me repeat that again to you. Grab your pen, write down a note. After I say this again, go back and listen to it twice in case you're not getting it. Tefillah, which is prayer. All sacrifices were offered in the Beis HaMikdash, in the Holy Temple, and our prayers are the substitute for the sacrifices. Now, one thing that's illuminated in my mind right now, we want to get like sticky into these formalities of prayer. And we're going to talk later about the fact that we just need to be simple in our avodah and just do it and just do it and just be actionable about the things that we are doing. You know, when they were having these sacrifices on the Beis HaMikdash, okay, there's all this animal parts and all this stuff that's like around. The thing that's coming to my mind right now is there wasn't any flies. You know, there wasn't the flies that were around is one of the things that they talk about in this. I don't know about the putrid smell, and the women weren't miscarrying because of this putrid, and the smoke from the altar was always going up. And that's how we need to know about your prayers right now. We serve a God who is kind and just and loving and desires to hear from us. And just like these offerings at this time when the Beis HaMikdash, as they were going up and they were pure and they were clear and they weren't putrid, you need to know that your prayers right now go to the Most High like that, like a very fine incense going up, that no matter what you're going through and whatever that the challenges that are in your life and how bad it may seem and how stinky or festering that it may be, you should know that it's holy. And when we talk to God, it's holy, and God is listening to us. In fact, of the Beis HaMikdash, it is said, "For my house shall be a house of prayer for all nations." Isaiah 56, chapter 7th verse. And this is the gate of heaven, according to Vayetze, which is in the book of Exodus, 28th chapter, 17th verse. Sadaqah, charity, justice, hustio, the flow of kindness to and for the world, emanated by virtue of the holy table in the Beis HaMikdash, as we learn in Exodus 25th chapter, 23rd verse, and places there. Moreover, in the Beis HaMikdash, in this holy temple, there was a special room called the Chamber of Secret Gifts, into which people put anonymous gifts that were used for the anonymous support of the poor. When a Jew builds his individual sanctuary in this mode, God promises that I shall dwell among and within them, just as in the central sanctuary in Jerusalem. Moreover, intensive study of Torah, fervent tefillah, this intensive study of the Torah. When we talk about intensive, we're talking about maybe not even the length of time. It could be quantity, but we're also talking about the quality, even if it's just a few minutes that you can make a sacrifice for, that God sees that quality where you could be doing something else. When it's quantity, instead of if you do 3 minutes and go to 6 minutes, and then you just hone in and be a little bit more focused and just a little bit more in that moment. Our fervent prayer, our prayer, we go and then we have this time and we like have this conversation with the Most High God, and God is listening to us, and we have this fervent prayer, especially the prayer that we should have this messianic redemption that we're calling for, in this Igvesa di Mashiach, these footsteps of the Most High God, and God revealing himself if we ask with earnest hearts, and he should hear. And acts of tzedakah, this will bring about speedily in our days a third and permanent Beis HaMikdash, the holy temple, to be established by Moshiach. We know that we're right here, and we have our shovels and our picks ready, and we ready. Hope y'all are ready. Say l'chaim. I need Ali Marcus to sing a niggin that I can catch a moment, but we just gonna have to continue along. One thing I want to take a look at right now, it wasn't in the schedule, but I want to take a look at the 7 levels of giving. You could pull that right up on your phone. 7 levels of giving, if we can get that. The 7 levels of tzedakah. Because it's interesting, I was talking about this chamber of the secret gifts. There's a way when you give to people, there's different degradations and degradations. Pardon me. Let's see if we can get it real quick. Because there's a lot of things about tzedakah. We had the whole mimer a few weeks ago on the art of giving, and I want to talk to you just briefly about the 7 levels of tzedakah as we go on, because we want to talk about so many things. 7 levels of TZEDEKAH. 7 levels of tzedakah. Okay, accordingly, it's Maimonides who's calling it the 8 levels of charity, if I'm correct. I call it 7, or the ladder of tzedakah. Just one moment, if we can. Looks like we may be having a little bit of a network issue, which is okay. We can come to that, because in general, we're not fundraising with you. We just growing all together here. All right, so there are 8 levels of charity, each greater than the next, okay? This is from Maimonides, and I'm pulling it up on Chabad.org, Chabad.org. So if you put Maimonides, Maimonides, 8 levels of charity, Chabad, Chabad. At any rate, here it says there are 8 levels of charity. If I remember, I'll try to put this link in the box for you. We'll try to get a little bit better on these things and try to be everything that you need to do and be, but remember that we need to work for it. And it's so easy now. We have so many tools, you know what I'm saying? Or you have your phone and you can just call me right now and I can give you that information. I'll give you my phone number one more time, 602-338-0129. With God's help, we'll have that posted down there. So the 8 levels of charity, each greater than the next. Number 1, the greatest level above which there is no greater. I want to go the other way. I don't like to go that way. It counts them backwards. I don't want to do it that way. The first level of giving is to give begrudgingly or unwillingly. And a higher level than this is when one gives not enough, but you give gladly and with a smile. A higher level than this is when one gives to the poor person after being asked. A lesser level than this is when one gives to the poor person directly into his hand, but gives before being asked. A higher level of charity than this is when one does not know to whom he gives, but the person does know where it came from, its benefactor. Like the greatest sages used to tie coins into their robes and throw them behind their backs, and the poor would come up and pick up the coins out of their robes so that they would not be ashamed. Like so, the righteous person or the sages, they throw it. They didn't know who got it, but the people who picked it up, they were able to see where it had come from. A higher level of charity than this is when one knows to whom one gives, but the recipient does not know his benefactor. So the greatest sages used to walk around in secret and put coins in the doors of the poor. And it is worthy and truly good to do this if those who are responsible for distributing the charity are not trustworthy. Okay. The next higher level, when we should not know any of that, but apparently it's addressing that. So these things exist sometimes. God help us. A higher level of charity than this is to give to the poor without knowing to whom one gives and without the recipient knowing from whom he received. For this is performing a mitzvah solely for the sake of heaven. This is like the anonymous fund that we were just talking about. That was in the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. There, the righteous gave in secret, and the good poor profited in secret. Okay. Giving to a charity fund or this communal charity fund is similar to this mode of charity, though one should not contribute to a charity fund unless one knows that the person appointed over the fund is trustworthy and wise and a proper administrator. Like the person's name, it says here is Rabbi Kananya ben Teridan. I'd like to think that that's how we are giving and receiving charity here. We do need tzedakah as well, but those who need tzedakah, you should know that we are here for you too. And myself personally, we're here to try to help you in any way that we can. And it's saying that this greatest level above to which there is no greater, because it's all these have really been lesser, and I adjusted them to greater by starting at the bottom. The greatest level, which there is no greater, is to support a fellow Jew by endowing him with a gift or loan, or entering to a partnership with him, or finding employment for him in order to strengthen his hand so that he will not be dependent upon others. So we're grateful to be able to touch those things tonight, because we do have Purim coming up. We'll be working on the Purim Mimer, Lahavin Inyan, if I'm correct. We'll pull that out. I'd really like to start there honestly, in general, we go into a sikha for Parshas Terumah, for the Parsha for the week, but I'm kind of pulling the e-break. I want to do some learning tonight, and I want to do a lot of learning, and with God's help, we'll still hopefully end up with a most special, very time with a mimer. Let us continue on. Let's learn. Let's farbring, and let's talk about honor due to parents. How about that? The mitzvah of kibud av ve'im. Those who can pronounce it properly, honor due to parents. And it says, behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and awesome day of the Lord, and he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers. This is in Malachi in the 3rd chapter, 23rd and 24th verse. We'll try to make sure you get some time markers on here. So if you want to hop to something, we're trying to go with the, from the top to the bottom, just whatever most important that'll be. I prefer that if you have a certain amount of time, then you just come back to the farbrengen when you could at that point. If you prefer a table of contents and I'm able to have that there, you could maybe skip around, but just go at your own pace. If you could take a little bit of time, cool. If you can't, fine. When you stop, you stop. When you fall asleep, you fall asleep. If you wake up, then you go back to the part from where you heard that you remembered. No problem. So Malachi 3rd chapter, 23rd and 24th verse. Is that throughout our lifetime, I like this too because it's applicable to everyone. So some people, they're only going to be able to do an hour. And when we get out of an hour, then I want to go into Tefillin. Then after we go into Tefillin, I want to talk about some aspects of Chabad, Chassidism. And then after we do that, I want to go ahead and touch something brand new if we have the strength. How matches are made on high, a brand new release. And some teachings from the Chabad Rebbes on Shidduchim, if that's okay with you. And we will segue back first thing that we can into the Sikhas, and we'll have 3 of those this week, and we'll pick back up on the Shulchan Aruch this week, and Bli Nader will add Rambam in because Rambam, we're in the new cycle and it's adding some wonderful things, and we're just going to continue in happiness. All right. How you feel about that? L'chaim. Well, I'm excited. Pray that you're excited. Let me get my water here. It says here that throughout our lifetime, we're faced nearly every day with the problem of rendering valued judgments affecting our behavior. What y'all know about that? Oftentimes, when exposed to various temptations, our judgments tend to be clouded by subjectivity. Situations arise in which we shrug off some duties or ignore some injunctions in whole or in part, considering them to be trivial. In such cases, however, the neglect of a seemingly minor obligation may ultimately prove to be of serious consequence. That is why we are admonished to heed what appears to be a minor precept as much as a major one. The minor precepts, or the seemingly minor details of the mitzvot, are in fact of major significance. The psalmist's words, "The iniquity of my heels encompasses me," according to Psalms 39, chapter 6 verse, are interpreted to mean that these sins man tramples upon with his heels in this world, because they appear to him unimportant, encompass and surround him on the day of judgment. The minor, quote unquote, details or aspects of the mitzvot and of our lives in general, and adding and illuminating, are of a very real consequence. For one thing, they add up individually and in their grand total rise to great proportion. Moreover, it is the care and observance of minutia which assures the care and observance of the major precepts as much as that the neglect of minutia or the minutiae will ultimately lead to major transgressions. Wow, wow, wow. This principle applies especially to precepts that impose daily duties and a practically continuous personal involvement. For in cases as such, there lurks the danger of quote unquote familiarity breeding neglect, if not contempt. Familiarity breeding neglect, if not contempt. You know how you kind of just get used to something, and then before you know, you're not neglecting, you're held liable of not doing it at all. One of these continuous and exacting precepts is the duty to honor and revere our parents. This discourse that we'll have here offers a brief outline of what our tradition teaches about this precept and some of the specific obligations of children toward their parents. The subject deserves close attention, even while the mitzvah of kibud aveim, the precept to honor father and mother, may be a self-evidently rational ethical principle. The Talmud refers to it as the most difficult mitzvah. I love how Rabbi Levertov would always tell me, there's volumes and volumes and volumes. We're just going to touch for a few minutes on this, but there's volumes and volumes about this. And I think that it's a particular challenge for those of us who are converts to the faith, finding our place and knowing how these things affect us and remembering the background that we come from and the circumstances that we have to deal with, some of the challenges as being Garim. So, moreover, nowadays we find even most fundamental principles of normal ethical behavior trampled upon. Very often, parents are no longer recognized as forging links in a chain of human development and as bridges to and pillars of the future, but as obscurant obstacles to self centered pursuits. God help us. Unfortunately, more often than not, parents must more than share the guilt for this anomaly. God help us. For just as the children has responsibility towards his parents, parents too have definite duties and responsibilities toward their children. Foremost among a parent's duties towards his offspring is to teach him Torah, to guide him, and to prepare him for a committed and meaningful Torah life. The failures of parents in their duties is often casually related to the failures of the child. Nonetheless, this is not exempt or use the child's neglect of its own responsibilities. The Torah decrees that where parents neglect to teach their children, the child must teach himself and on his own seek to acquire the knowledge essential to a life in accordance with the Torah. May we be inspired now here to bring to fruition the duties and ideals that are mentioned here. And thank you to Jacob Emmanuel Shochet. And the time of this was the 5th of Tammuz. And this is almost 58 years ago. Kibud Aveim, 2 commandments. Okay. FARBRENGEN, y'all. The great importance and significance of the mitzvah to honor parents is seen in the fact that it is part of the 10 commandments, the very core of the Torah. Actually, there are 2 commandments in the Torah dealing with the duties and the relationship of the child to his parents. A, honor your father and mother, which is from the book of Exodus, 20th chapter, 12th verse. We also see this in Deuteronomy in the 5th chapter, 16th verse. B, every man shall revere his father, his mother and father. Leviticus 19th chapter, 3rd verse. An expression of honor. The translation of the sentiments of love and gratitude into concrete acts, and a sense of reverence derived from the recognition and respect due to the parent's natural position are the two essential characteristics of the child to parent relationship. The duties and obligations implied in these scriptural precepts are succinctly defined in the Talmud and its codes. The meaning of honor. What constitutes honor? One must provide them with food and drink, clothing and coverings, to conduct them home and take them out, and rise before them. When tending to all their needs, this must be done cheerfully, even when offering them daily the most delectable foods, but doing so with ill grace, one incurs punishment. Conversely, if one makes his father do hard labor, but for good reasons, as for example, to save him from a worse fate, as he appeases his father by showing him that his intention is good, one inherits the world to come. Whatever that means. All such services for parents must be performed. I said whatever that means, just like you think you do. That's a high calling. I don't know what. I'll leave it at that. All such services for parents must be performed just like a servant performs them for his master. One is duty bound to render personal services, even at personal expense. To what length should the duty of honoring parents go? Even if they were to take his purse full of gold and cast it into the sea in his presence, he must not shame them, manifest grief in their presence, or display anger, but accept the divine decree without demur. The meaning of reverence. What constitutes on reverence? This is very interesting to me. One must not stand in the place appointed for his father in a council of elders, or the place reserved for him to pray. Not sit in the seat generally occupied by one's parent. Must not contradict the parent's words nor corroborate their words in their presence, even to say father's opinion appears correct, nor call them while alive or dead by their name. To what end should the duty of revering parents go? Even if one is attired in costly garments, presiding over a meeting, and his parents come and rend his garments, strike him on the head, and spit in his face, he must not shame them, but should remain silent and fear the King of Kings, the Holy One. Blessed be he who has thus decreed. For if a mortal king were to issue a decree against him, even more exasperating than this, he would be powerless to rebel against it. All the more so if the author of the decree is he by whose word the world came into being in accordance with his will. Rationale of these commandments of Kibud Av Ve'im, honoring father and mother. The preceding paragraphs define what it means to render honor and reverence to parents. The underlying thought of these precepts, the reason for the proper behavior towards parents, are enjoined by the Torah, is generally regarded as rational and self-evident. For it is but reasonable to expect the child to acknowledge those that brought him into the world, tended to him in times of helplessness and dependency, cared for his needs and wants by providing food, clothing, shelter, and education, and otherwise assisted him to become self-sufficient. That's what our parents did for us. Thank you, parents. It is reasonable to expect children to acknowledge the frequent sacrifices of parents in the course of raising them, and upbringing, which more often than not goes paired with physical hardships, mental anguish, and expenditure. Sincere sentiments of filial love and gratitude, a sense of filial duty and piety, and the accompanying expressions of love and respect can and should be expected as natural and innate inclinations. The child is but paying a debt, as it were. Thus, even if these norms of behavior were not prescribed by divine pronouncements, it is to be assumed that human reason and natural ethics would invent a similar code for the relationship of a child towards his parents. So this is also, as we learned, like recently in the Mishpatim and the Chukim, these ones these mishpatim, these laws that we learned last week, and these edus, these three different types of classifications, these hukim, we have these commandments from God that really don't make any sense. But these mishpatim, they're kind of things that we understand, and the thought process is that even if we weren't able to have the divine procurement and a divine pronouncement to tell us how to do these things, we would kind of figure out how to do these things. And the Chabad Rabban would say, Chas v'shalom, God forbid that we'd learn it outside of God's command. And as we're applying these things and you're applying yourself to this mitzvah of kibud aveim, we shouldn't just do it because it makes sense to be rightful to our parents. We do it because God commands. Everything that we do in our life is because God commands, even if there's a sensible logic to it. Like when we go to work, you go to work to sustain yourself. No, we work because God commands that we combine Torah with an occupation. Respect for parents, a religious principle. I'm talking to myself, y'all. I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to you too, but we're talking to myself. When I listen, I listen to myself because I need to remind myself. I don't need to remind you. You probably could remind me. Respect for parents, a religious principle. The fact that the Torah declares the proper child-to-parent relationship to be a divine precept lends it a new character. The fact that to honor and to revere parents are mitzvahs of the Torah impresses upon these precepts a stamp of absoluteness, and it establishes them as independent principles on their own. It no longer matters whether some individual or collective reason agrees with this notion, or whether a particular society may have a different standard of ethics and code of morality. In the text of the Torah tradition, it is conceivable that there be a calculated and well-reasoned attitude, as that of ancient Sparta, to dispose of parents that have become useless or a liability due to old age or infirmity. The absolute character of the mitzvot to honor and revere parents makes filial duties independent of exterior conditions. I'm not familiar with this word, filial. Let's see what we got here. Filial. Okay, it says of or due from a son or daughter. Okay, so like a display of filial attention, huh? So these duties or obligations remain intact even when there is no debt to be paid, e.g., where parents have failed or refused to perform their responsibilities toward their children. Indeed, the Torah's absolute precepts remain in force even in relation to parents who may have forsaken the Torah. Chas v'shalom, God forbid. Thus, it is seen that filial duties are not to be looked upon as a mere logical consequence and proportionate outgrowth of the exercise of parental duties. There is a more profound significance attached to these precepts of the Torah. The religious aspect of honoring parents, an implicit allusion to the deeper significance of the command to honor your father and mother, is detected in the very context in which this command appears. It appears as one of the 10 commandments. Moreover, within the 10 themselves, it is part of the first of the 2 tablets were engraved. Let's stop right here because I want to talk about something. And it's the 10 commandments. Rabbi Yeye Wilhelm, he's been on fire for us. We have daily Chita studies out of Upper East Side Manhattan, and he said, what community do you tell a non-Jewish person to join? Non-Jews are what we tell you about, because this is a really hard thing. It's the seven laws of Noah, We're doing a lot of learning tonight. And I want to make sure that if you've put in your time here and you spent an hour with me and some of this isn't applicable for your life, I want you to know that this is what you need to know. The 7 Noahide laws are very simple. We'll elaborate another time. The 7 Noahide laws are rules that all of us must keep, regardless of who we are or from where we come. So for all nations of people, without these 7 things, it would be impossible for humanity to live together in harmony. Number 1, do not profane God's oneness in any way. Acknowledge that there is a single God who cares about what we're doing and desires that we take care of his world. Number 2, do not curse your creator. No matter how angry you may be, do not take it out verbally against your creator. Number 3, do not murder. The value of human life cannot be measured. To destroy a single human life is to destroy the entire world, because for that person, the world has ceased to exist. It follows that by sustaining a single human life, you are sustaining an entire universe. Number 4, do not eat a limb of a still living animal. Respect the life of all God's creatures. As intelligent beings, we have a duty not to cause undue pain to other creatures. But we will talk about the superiority of human life at the end of the program here. Number 5, do not steal. Hopefully you're writing these down if you have any questions. Whatever benefits you receive in this world, make sure that none of them are at the unfair expense of somewhere else. Number 6, harness and channel the human libido. Incest, adultery, and homosexual relations are forbidden. The family unit is the foundation of human society. Sexuality is the fountain of life, and so nothing is more holy than this act. So too, when abused, nothing can be more debasing and destructive to the human being. Number 7, establish courts of law and ensure justice in our world. With every small act of justice, we are restoring harmony to our world, synchronizing it with a supernal order. That is why we must keep the laws established by our government for the country's stability and harmony. Those are the 7 laws of Noah, and they are to be observed by all. Now, let's keep FARBRENGEN here, because I know this is also the kids program, but when I use this word, and we were talking about those other 3 things, it's okay to, I'm sure there's a certain way that you want to talk about them and a certain way that you want to address them. I saw a letter from the Rebbe, and he was saying that when it comes to laws of family purity, for Jews, that we ought not be scared to address some of these topics. I think sometimes we're very uncomfortable about talking to them, and because we have separate seating in the synagogue and because it is a very private matter, we don't know how to approach it. But the Rebbe was saying, look, when you at work and you're everywhere else, everybody else doesn't have any problem approaching and addressing these things. I mean, you could be in your workplace and somebody could be watching some of the material that you would never only see somebody would do in the privacy of their home, even at work, especially in the culture here in Arizona. And let us not be afraid to address and talk about things as it comes up and is observed somewhere else. I think there used to be a time like, people have come to the point where, oh, my kids, I'd rather they do XYZ at my house where I can control it, or if you get out of hand, just call me and I'll come pick you up. Don't drive. We need to begin to adjust and have our ability to be able to address some things with our children. And at some ages it might not be appropriate, but just for whoever that might be affecting. So now we're back to if you're not Jewish and you're listening to this broadcast, so this aspect itself of honoring one's parents and this concept of 10 commandments, this may be a completely new fact for you. The fact that these 10 commandments are not even applicable to you. You begin with the 7 laws of Noah, and then you can begin your journey and continue your experience after that. So lead you, which would likely be why we're having this conversation. But there are just these 7 laws. So this religious aspect of honoring one parents, it appears as one of the 10 commandments. Thank you for learning with me. We're at the 1 hour mark. Let's continue. Let's learn. Let's farbring. It's Melava Malka. We had the beautiful shot day, and now we're infusing the week with holiness for a whole week. Always, I think Rabbi Perry, who told me the Melava Malka learning really gets it going. So I've always tried to learn on Malava Malka, and grateful to be able to come to you on the broadcast. Let's continue along with mitzvah of Kibud Aveim, the honor due to parents. We'll take a break here in a few minutes when we're ready, but all right. So it appears as one of the 10 commandments. Moreover, within the 10 commandments themselves, it is part of the first of the 2 tablets on which the commandments were engraved. This is rather significant, for though all of the 10 commandments are of divine origin, as in the whole Torah, the precepts on the first tablet deal with typically religious matters of the man-God relationship. The mitzvot on the second tablet deal with matters related to intra-human relationships. One would expect the 5th commandment, okay, to be grouped with the life, as it too seems to deal with a matter of social concern. In fact, however, it is adjoined to the first 4, which are purely of a religious nature. The classic commentators already noted this and offer various interpretations. Some suggest that this draws attention to the parents' role to provide for their children with the proper guidance with respect to their religious obligations. But there is a still more profound, independent of the postnatal parental involvement, and centers on the creative capacity of the parents only. The child-parent relationship is analogous to and intricately bound up in the man-God relationship. This is so because in bringing a child into this world, the parents are in a partnership with God. The material substance is derived from the parents, while God grants spirit and soul, the vital form of man. The 5th of the 10 commandments implicitly suggests awareness of one's origin, cognizant of one's purpose of existence, and grateful acknowledgement of one's resources. Awareness of the parents' role as creative agents leads to contemplation on and recognition of the ultimate creator and provider of all, God. Acknowledgement and gratitude will then extend from the immediate and visible tangibilities to such as one comes to recognize only after some contemplation. For this reason, God accounts honor shown to as though it were shown to himself. And conversely, the neglect to honor parents is regarded as an affront to God. That is why this commandment appears in the middle of the 10 commandments. It mediates between the first 4 and the latter 5 precepts. It is related to both groups. It is as much a religious principle as it is a social one. Proper behavior towards parents is seen as a logical rung in the ladder, leading to the proper behavior toward our Father in heaven and the realization of the ultimate purpose of man. He who heeds his parents as he should may be assumed to heed other religious obligations as well. The analogy between the relationship to God and parents, we got a lot to go, but we can do it, huh? We're halfway there, a little bit beyond halfway. The analogous relationship between honoring God and honoring parents is expressed more explicitly in the rabbinic writings. The sages note that these principles of honoring and revering God and of honoring and revering parents are hermeneutically equated and assimilated. The Torah uses identical language for both of them. Thus, it was taught the honoring of one's father and mother is very dear before him, by whose word the world came into being, for he equated their honor to his honor, and reverence, fear of them to reverence, fear of him, and cursing them to cursing him. It is written, honor your father and your mother, and correspondingly, it is written, honor God with your substance, according to Proverbs, the book of Mishneh, chapter 3, verse 9. Scripture thus equates the honoring of parents with honoring God. It is written, every man shall fear his mother and father, and correspondingly, it is written, you shall fear God, your God, according to Deuteronomy 6, chapter 13th verse. Scripture thus equated the fear of one's parents with the fear of God. It is written, and he who curses his father or mother, etc., in the book of Exodus, 21st chapter, 17th verse. And correspondingly, it is written, any man who curses his God, etc., in the book of Leviticus, 24th chapter, 15th verse. Scripture thus equates the cursing of one's parents with the cursing of God. Those pages better be flipping. In fact, the specific duties of filial piety are derived by analogy from one's duties towards God. Imbued with this thought, the Talmudic sage Rabbi Yosef, when hearing his mother's footsteps, would say, I will arise before the approaching Shekinah, the divine presence. Indeed, Rabbi Shimon ben Bar Yochai is of the opinion that God attaches greater importance to the honoring of parents and to honoring himself. God is honored with your substance, Proverbs 3:9, i.e., with that what he has graciously bestowed on man. If you have substance, you are obligated to set apart tithes, to care for the poor and hungry, to purchase religious articles, etc. And if you have not, you are not obligated to any of them. But when it comes to honoring parents, whether you have the means or not, honor your father and your mother, even if you have to beg your living from door to door. When not to obey, an exception. The fact that the precepts to honor and revere parents are commands of God implies not only the wide extent and significance of these mitzvahs, but also their limitation. It is God who prescribes these mitzvahs, and it is God's Torah which delineates their specific needs. These mitzvot, therefore, are integral parts of Torah and subject thereto. They can never apply to incidents that would contravene the letter or spirit of the Torah. It says here, this is coming from Rashi on Leviticus 19:3. All the sources for these are available, and the very first one comes from the Perkei Avos 2:1. And really wish we would have put these other footnotes in, but let's continue to breeze along here. Every man shall revere his mother and father, and you shall keep my Sabbaths. I am God, your God. Scripture juxtaposes the observance of the Sabbath to the reverence of one's parents. And although I admonish you regarding the reverence due to your father, to desecrate the Shabbat, do not listen to him. And the same is the case with any of the other commandments. For I am God, your God. Both you and your father are equally bound in duty to honor me. Do not therefore obey him if it results in disobeying my words. It says here that if parents would order their children to transgress a positive or negative commandment set forth in the Torah, or even a command which is of rabbinic origin, the child must disregard the order. Moreover, in the event that the father requests a personal service from his son, while the son has a mitzvah to perform, then if the mitzvah can be performed by others, let him delegate it to us and attend to the duty of honoring his father. For one commandment is not to be neglected for another, but if there are no others to perform the mitzvah, postponed, he must perform it himself and disregard the honor due his father, because both he and his father are in duty bound to fulfill the commandment. The latter would include especially the duty of studying Torah, which supersedes that of honoring parents. talk to your local ordained rabbi if you got some questions on Kabud Av Ve'im. One thing, if I'm correct, Rabbi Yeye was saying, like, or somebody had a question. It's like, look, if your parents tell you not to marry someone, I guess you can still go behind their back and marry them, but to your parents' face, you still revere them and tell, okay, you don't disrespect your parent. Then you could go and do what you wanted once you go your own way. But to your parents, you still honor and respect and revere them. Um, may we not know these types of things and only see revealed godliness and elevations and some of us, I think we have like this concept in 2026 boundaries. I want to thank Yisroel Picker and Yerushalayim. He said, boundaries are gates that you can open and close. You don't just put up a wall. You got a boundary is a different thing. Examples of model children. Above, we cited the legal definitions and explained what it means to honor and revere parents. The Talmud offers some enlightening illustrations taken from actual life to teach us the extent of these mitzvos. Interestingly enough, the oft-cited model son is a prominent heathen by the name of Dama, the son of Natina. Of him it is told how he preferred to forfeit a great fortune rather than wake his father. This is such a cool story. The same Dama once wore a gold embroidered silken cloak and was sitting among his noble peers when his mother came, tore his robe off of him, struck him on the head, and spat in his face, yet he did not shame her. This Dama guy, he was supposed to sell something for his father, if I'm correct, for a very large amount, but he would not wake his father, which is not allowed. They were going to give him this huge amount of money, whatever the case may be. He was much more worried about honoring his father than this very large sum of money. It says of Rabbi Tarfon, it is related that his mother once walked in her garden and her sandal split so that she would have to walk home barefoot. Thereupon Rabbi Tarfon kept stretching his hands under her feet, and she walked over them all the way. One day he was ill, and his colleagues came to visit him. His mother then said to them, "Pray for my son, Rabbi Tarfon, for he honors me more than is my due." "What has he done to you?" they asked. She told them what had happened. They replied, "If he had done to you 1,000 times more, he would not have done half of the honor enjoined in the Torah." Noting the profound significance and the wide scope of this mitzvah, it is easily understood why it is referred to as the most difficult, the weightiest of the weighty commandments. The severity is offset only by the corresponding divine blessings and reward for its observance, which man reaps in this world as well in the world to come. That is why Rabbi Zierah, who was left an orphan in his infancy, at first was grieved, said, "Oh, that I had father and mother, so that I could honor them and inherit paradise." But when he heard stories as of that Rabbi Tarfon, he exclaimed, "Blessed be the merciful Father, that I have no father and mother, for I could not have acted thus." Um, that is just beautiful right there, by the way. I think of my one brother, he was telling me recently, his father had died when he was very young. And so he has a lot of pain about this fact. But in this moment, I want to just share with my holy brother in Uganda this word. And for those of you, even here in Phoenix, I don't have my parents here, and my wife's parents do not live here, which is a very, very, very big challenge for us. But we all realize that there is some consolation of that too. Those of you who have this ability, there is a very big responsibility that comes with it, and know that ultimately we should all be blessed, and we should all be able to exercise and this kabud aveim, no matter how difficult, and reap the wonderful blessings of it, because it is a wonderful thing to be able to honor our parents and the generational things that come through us, and the fact that how we come into this world and how the fact that our parents come into this world, it's all a very divine thing that is just absolutely beautiful. Rabbi Zera's remark does not mean that the obligation to honor and revere parents cease with their death. These mitzvos remain in force even then, though the duties may be different even after their death. One must always express reverence when mentioning parents. The recital of Kaddish, these memorial prayers, or Yizkor, etc., are also acts of filial piety, these things that we should do as sons and daughters. Moreover, alongside these occasional practices, there is one way of constantly observing these mitzvos after the passing of the parents, no less than during their lifetime, as follows: children's behaviors and parents' honor. Everyone must keep in mind, and those of us, somebody said we were farbrengen the Shabbos, and this had come up, and they were talking about. I guess they were mentioning the loss of one's parents, and they were saying for those of us, who don't have the parents, one of the things that they always said is that they would have reached out more. And one of the guys said that's something that we're all guilty of, and I said not all of us. I do reach out for my mother every day. I do remember my Nana, she called us every day, which I think was cool too. It made it a little bit easier, I think. But regardless, and those of us who are reaching out to our parents every day or speaking with our parents, whether it be on that 7 levels of tzedakah, whether reluctantly, whether if it's shorter than you could be, or if you're going into a whole highest level of just giving of yourself to fully observe kibud av va'im, just for its sake, just beautiful. And we should always be able to go from strength to strength in it, and just take steps on the way to increase. If you're having a lot of interactions, and to make them more heartfelt. If you have very little reactions or interactions, and even just more, because every interaction inside this life is something that grows and heals, and we should just be able to do this great mitzvah that is a command from Hashem. It makes sense that we would honor our parents, but the reason why we honor our parents is because God said so. And as we follow God's commandments, it establishes a connection with him, and it's excellent things, and one of the whole reasons why we're here on this earth, so that we can place for God to dwell in this lowest world, this dira bitaktonim. Let's continue along. Children's behavior and parents' honor. We're at the end here. Everyone must keep in mind that his personal behavior reflects very much on his parents. It's very nice when you're around people speak to you well of your parents, to your parents about you. Where one leads, sometimes we got to be able to filter that information too. Sometimes when people say the information, we might not understand what they were trying to say, and we may have taken it wrong. And that's where we need to be working on ourselves all the time, to be able to see good in people and not being able to see bad in people. Sometimes someone could compliment you or do something good to you, and we take offense to it, and we're all guilty upon that. And we work on ourselves by taking ourselves out of center and work on being better people, not to be offended. God help us all. And we do it just little by little. We're going to talk more about that for those of us who are Jewish, and how we can work on being better Chassidim, and how this we're going to wrap up with that when we get to that point. I'm not sure we're going to make it to the matches on this one for a different program, but we do want to talk about being Chassidim, and we do want to talk about how our daily religious observance, and as we start to master these things, how we can become better students of our intellect, and master some higher levels. But so everyone must know that as parents, that our personal behavior reflects very much on our parents, okay? Where one leads an exemplary life, this is a source of joy and honor to his parents and causes others to praise them and admire them. Conversely, a child's improper behaviors is a source of disgrace and ignominy to parents in their own eyes and in the eyes of others. One's behavior, thus, is not strictly a private affair, but is intricately related to the precept of honor your father and mother. And thus it was taught. Scripture states, a son will honor his father and a servant his master. According to Malachi 1:6, a son will honor his father, as it is written, honor your father and your mother. And we establish that this is done with food, drink, and all things. This obligation applied in the parent's lifetime, but lest you think that after the parent's death, one is exempt, it is not so. For though he has died, one is obligated to honor him even more, as it is written, honor your father. When your son walks in a crooked path, he surely will bring dishonor and shame upon his parents. But if he walks in the straight path and his deeds are upright, he surely will confer honor on his parent, honoring him in this world among people and in the world to come with the Holy One, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, blessed is he. An example is Rabbi Eliezer, who honored his father in this world and in the world to come. Rabbi Shimon now is honored more in both worlds, more than during his lifetime, having merited holy children and a holy stock. Happy are the righteous that merit to have holy children and a holy stock, of which it is stated, all who see them shall acknowledge them, that they are the seed which God has blessed, according to Isaiah 61:9. In conclusion, some basic laws of Kibud Aveim says, number one must be extremely careful to honor and revere his father and mother, for the Torah compares it to the honor and reverence for God. Number two, both men and women are enjoined to honor and parents. However, a married woman is not in a position to supply her parents with their needs, as much as she is dependent on others, and she is therefore exempt thereof. But she is obliged to do for her parents all she can, as long as her husband does not object. Number three, one must honor and respect a stepmother during the father's lifetime and a stepfather during the mother's lifetime. It is proper that one honor and respect them even after the death of one's own parents. God bless the step parents. One must honor and respect a father-in-law and a mother-in-law, as we find that King David honored King Saul, who was his father-in-law, by calling him my father. See Samuel 1:24 chapter 12th verse. Likewise, one must honor and respect grandparents. Also implied in this mitzvah is that one must honor an elder brother and sister. If I didn't mention, I always do the learning in honor of my brother Theodore Jason Ben Homer Doler and my brother-in-law. His name is Richard Allen. If I'm correct, he's the son of Richard Allen. I think we need to make a correction to that record. We'll come back to that at the appropriate time. We do learn a biblical principle that the first child is the best. It's not just a talking thing. It's a biblical principle brought down in the Torah. And I'm grateful for my older brother and the excellence that we've been able to push forward in his name. Number five, if the father and mother is asleep and the key to one's store lies under their pillow, one must not awaken them, even if one would lose much profit thereby. That's the story of this Dhamma. However, if the parent would benefit by being awakened, and if the son should fail to awake them, they will grieve over the loss of the profit. It is the son's duty to awaken them, since that will make them happy. It is also the duty of children to awake their parent for the performance of any religious duty, which might otherwise be neglected, as all are equally bound to honor the Almighty. If the mind of his father, number six, or mother is affected, one should make every effort to indulge the vagaries of the stricken parent until God will have mercy on the afflicted. But if the condition of the parent has grown worse and the son is no longer able to endure the strain, he may leave his father or mother, provided he delegates others to give the parent proper care. Chas v'shalom, we should never know. Number seven, when a child sees a parent violate the Torah, he must not say, you have violated a command of the Torah. He should rather say, Father, Mother, is it not written in the Torah, thus and thus? Speaking to them as though he were consulting them rather than admonishing them. so that the parent may correct himself without being put to shame. Number 8, the Torah is rigorous not only with respect to him who strikes or curses his parents, but also with him who puts them to shame. For he who treats them with contempt, even by using harsh words against them, even by a discourteous gesture, is condemned by God. As it is said, cursed be he that dishonors his father or his mother, according to Deuteronomy in the 27th chapter, 16th verse. May we not know any of these things. Number 9, one must honor parents even after their death, as explained above. When mentioning parents after their passing, one is to add, may his or her memory be for a blessing. Number 10, although children are commanded to go to the aforementioned length in their relationship to their parents, parents are forbidden to impose too heavy a yoke upon them, to be too exacting with them in matters pertaining to their honor, lest they cause their children to stumble. They should forgive them and quote unquote shut their eyes, for parents have the right to forego the honor due to them. Isn't that just beautiful? Say L'chaim. This is just beautiful. And say L'chaim. We're getting better. We're learning. Knowing is half the battle. L'chaim. How about a short break? Who's up for a short break? We're keeping it live because that's the way we're doing it. No music today. We'll be back with you, and let's reconvene in 3 minutes. You get what you want. I'll do what I need to do, and we'll all come back together in 3 minutes. Let's do it. All right. Another minute and a half on the break, huh? Let's take 1 minute for the break. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei Adama. We want to keep learning. We want to keep farbrengen. One of the points being brought out is about the fact that we want to do actionable mitzvos. Women, we need you to light the Shabbos candles. For men, Jewish men, we need to be wrapping the Tefillin daily. This is an actionable thing, whether we're learning about it, whether we're getting all this learning time, how long that you dive in all these things. The tefillin needs to be wrapped on you every day, or what you can handle. L'chaim, let's do just a few more seconds on the break. I think what I'm saying is, let me get one more bite of this banana, and then let's talk about tefillin, okay? Mm-hmm. Lord have mercy. L'chaim. For subscribing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining along. Malava Malka, learning together, bringing Moshiach, have fun, experiencing godly light and elevation, growing close with our Creator, being better human beings, experiencing and walking upright to a new level of blessing that we've never seen before. Let's take another half an hour and talk about tefillin, okay? Let's talk about tefillin, the fluorocerite, and its significance, okay? So tefillin is one of the most important mitzvahs, or precepts of the Torah. It has been observed and treasured for thousands of years, right down to the present day. This and mezuzah, but tefillin especially, we need the Jewish men to put on the tefillin. The Torah mentions it more than once, but most explicitly in Deuteronomy 6:8, you shall bind them as a sign upon your hand, and they should be for a reminder between your eyes. Tefillin consists of two small leather boxes, okay, attached to leather straps. The two boxes each contain 4 sections of the Torah inscribed on the parchment, and these passages cite, for those of you who are just learning too, it's okay to just learn about it. There's a great knowing is half the battle is part of this. You know, a lot of people, and women don't have the obligation of the tefillin, but as you're hearing this story, so maybe you're endowed that you could buy the men, buy your husband a tefillin. I think this is more common with the talis, but you know, we kind of like have the way these mitzvahs are brought down, and learning about them or just knowing about them can connect our mind and our heart in a way. Before I converted and had the tefillin, I would envision and learn about these things, and by learning, they help bring it near. And for those of us who have, they need an application. They need to come to life. And this is one of the greatest mitzvahs, because as we're going to learn here, a lot of times you got to have this intent and kavana, and this, you know, like holy, like way of seeing things. But this particular mitzvah right here is just an actionable thing. So whether you're just learning, or if they're sitting in your house waiting to be used, don't worry, you don't have to. My one friend, Sally, we don't speak so much, but you know, sometimes we want to like go to tikva, or be at a certain arrival, or be at a certain place in our avodah, and these tefillin are just to help us arrive there. We may never arrive to where we want to be in our journey. We may always struggle with different things, as we're learning in Tanya last week, but we can fight the good fight. That says the way that we win is by not giving up. Okay. We just keep fighting every day. You do what you can, you take the mitzvahs that you can. And then we're going to talk in a few minutes about being Chassidim. Let's hop right into this Tefillin. Thank you for sticking around. So it's been observed and treasured for thousands of years, right down to this present day. The Torah mentions it more than once, but most explicitly in Deuteronomy 6:8. You shall bind them as a sign upon your hand, and they shall be a reminder between your eyes. And how it was established that we got this. Hopefully we'll get there, because it's tricky. Most people, when we read that, the fact of the Shema prayer, you shall love the Lord with all, hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one. You shall love the Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. These are the instructions to do such a thing. When we want to learn how to pray, when we want to learn how to continue to grow close in our relationship with God, and the methods that He's been has prepared for us. So these tefillin, it's 2 small leather boxes attached to leather straps. The 2 boxes each contain 4 sections of the Torah inscribed on parchment. These passages cite. Feel free to take a look on your screen for tefillin, Tefillin. That's T as in Tom, E Echo, F Frank, I Igloo, L as in Larry, L as in Larry, I as in Igloo, N as in Nancy, Tefillin. It's got these 4 parchments in it. The first one is Deuteronomy 6:4-9, pronouncing the unity of God. And then there's Vahaya, which is Deuteronomy, the 11th chapter, 13-21, expressing God's assurance to us of reward that will follow our observance of the Torah's precepts, and warning of retributions for disobedience to them. See Kadesh, which is in the book of Exodus, 13th chapter, verses 1-10. The duty of the Jewish people to always remember the redemption from Egyptian bondage. And the Vahaya, 11-16, the obligation of every Jew to inform his children matters. Let's continue along. I'm so excited in the fact that Pesach is coming, Passover. One of the neatest things about Pesach, and we're going to get to it after we get to Purim, but Pesach is just so cool, because God just picks us up from wherever that we're at, and wherever we are holding, and whatever work that we did not do. It doesn't matter. God just picks us up and He delivers us. And that is one of the most amazing things. Now, Pesach, 8 days goes, we eat the matzah, yada, yada, yada. But the problem is, after that, then there's a whole big work that's there for us. But it's just amazing that God is, right, no matter where you're holding by right now, if you can't seem to get out of the jam that you're in, or sometimes things just get us down to the point that they're at. But we know, no matter what, at Pesach, God just grabs us by the talus, by the sitzes, and He just sets us down at the Seder table. And then of no reward for ourselves, and of no earning of ourselves, and regardless if we're worthy or not, and He just brings us and He delivers us, and He gives us a chance to work on it for 7 weeks after that, until He gives us a Torah. And that is just one of the most beautiful and profound facts of Judaism, that God brings us out of Mitzrayim. And that's what we've been talking about for the last couple months, and how we have trust in God, and we have Batachan in God, and how we have Batachan by just applying this remembrance. And just it's just so beautiful. The Chassidus is illuminating so many things. May our eyes continue to be open, and Moshiach should teach us even more concepts. L'chaim. Moshiach should at the Seder table with us, guiding us through the questions. We should be able to ask the questions and see answers that we've never seen before. Moshiach should be teaching us this new Rambam cycle. Those of you who are in the 3 chapters being strengthened. So one of the boxes, this hand tefillin, okay, is placed on the left arm. If you're a lefty, then it's on the right arm, like me. I'm pointing over here. So as to the rest against the heart, the seat of the emotions, and the suspended leather strap is wound around the left hand and around the middle finger of that hand. So as it goes on there, and then it's wrapped around, And then it has that leather strap that goes down. It goes around, round, 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 and then to the middle of the hand. Got it? Middle finger of the hand. The other box, the head tefillin, is placed upon the head above the forehead so as to rest upon the cerebrum. We got some doctors in here, thank God. In this manner, our attention is directed to the head, heart, and hand. So that first box right here goes into the heart. This one is into the hand, and then there's this one that's on the head. And it teaches us to dedicate ourselves to the service of God in all that we think, feel, and do. It is also to teach us not to be governed solely by the impulse of the heart, lest that lead us into error and transgression, nor are we to be governed by reason alone, for that may lead to harsh materialism. Okay. Place on the arm opposite the heart and on the head. The tefillin signify the submission of one's mind, heart, and actions to the Almighty, as well as the rule of intellect over emotion. A fundamental principle of Chabad, Chassidic philosophy, is that the intellect must control the emotions. Unfortunately, there exists a schism between the mind and the heart. Moreover, often the emotions control the mind, and the intellect is utilized merely to provide justification, rationalization, and excuses for this instinct emotion centered existence. The mitzvah tefillin and its practical facilitates the attainment by the individual of unity of mind and heart, intellect, and emotion. Most of life's regrets and sorrows, and pain could be avoided if we but learn this important lesson. The application of head and heart to our everyday problems, besides such wholesome balance, constitutes the very first step on the road to self assurance, courage, hopefulness, and inner peace. Those eternally precious soul values the Jew must develop, the better to serve God and mankind. Tefillin will cultivate these blessed characteristics if observed in a spirit of true reverence. So this is why we're really trying to focus on these things, you see? Most of life's regrets, sorrows, and pains could be avoided if we would learn this important lesson about tefillin, the application of head and heart to our everyday problems. Besides, such wholesome balance constitutes the very first step on the road to self assurance, courage, hopefulness, and inner peace. Those eternally precious soul values the Jew must develop, the better to serve God and mankind. Tefillin will cultivate these blessed characteristics if we observe it in a spirit of true reverence, okay? And this is what we're trying to learn how to do this, okay? In many communities, it is customary to recite the following passage from Hosea, second chapter, 21st and 22nd verse, while winding the left on the middle finger of the hand. And I will betroth you unto me forever, and I will betroth you unto me in righteousness and in judgment and in loving kindness and in compassion. And I will betroth you unto me in faithfulness, and you shall know the Lord. These words were addressed to all Jews by God through his prophet Hosea. And these words, we were given a divine formula, an ethical recipe, a dependable guide for all, yet comprehensive enough to satisfy the loftiest aspiration of the most pious to know the Lord, practice righteousness, judgment, loving kindness, compassion, and faithfulness. And for the precious endowment of this priceless treasure, we Jews are truly grateful. How regrettable that so many of our quote unquote modern Jews take an indifferent or negative attitude towards this blessed mitzvah. They readily endorse the ideas inscribed on the tefillin, but failed to see the need for observing the ceremony, quote unquote. If only we would realize the inestimable value to ourselves of this daily practice, okay? It is but the required exercise for the development of spiritual fitness in the same manner that physical exercise is required for physical fitness. To understand the full significance of tefillin is to regard it as an outstanding privilege. If there are some who have neglected tefillin in the past and now realize their error, yet hesitate to correct it for fear of being ridiculed by family or friends, let them reflect on the words of Rabbi Eleazar Rocheach of Worms, France, around the 13th century. Be a man in your youth, but if you were then defeated in the struggle, return. Return at last to God, however old you may be. Rabbi Yehuda Levi in the 12th century probably had the lesson of tefillin in mind when he wrote, "The divine religion, Judaism, does not urge us to live an ascetic life, but guides us in the middle path, equidistant from the extremes of too much and too little. It allows free play to every God given faculty of both body and soul within the constructive limits drawn by the divine hand itself. For certain, it is that we devote to one faculty in excessive measure, we withdraw from another, and thus upset the harmony which should pervade our entire being. Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, an outstanding rabbi of the 19th century, said of tefillin, a truth in order to produce results must be impressed upon the mind and heart repeatedly and emphatically. Merely to acknowledge the essential principles of righteousness and love is not sufficient to actually bind up such a life. In addition, there too, symbolic words and actions are necessary so that they may become indelibly stamped upon the soul and thus preserved for yourself and for others. More recently, a distinguished rabbi, Meir Jung, had this to say of tefillin, this religious act performed daily has done more to preserve and to further the high morality of our people than all the books on ethics that have ever been written. The same can also be said of other mitzvot. Though some have a double influence, one direct, making for immediate physical well being, the other indirect, forming character by teaching constructive restraint through habitual action. And it says here, continuing along, tefillin and the exodus from Egypt has been pointed out that the four Torah excerpts to be found in the tefillin, the ones that we just talked about, uh, uh, the Shema, the Vahaya, the Kadesh, and the Vahaya, which you already know if you have these tefillins was embedded in you. This isn't like concepts I need to explain to you. Um, you actually like explained them to me. While the other two have almost exclusive reference to the Exodus from Egypt, which is so interesting. Some may wonder why the Exodus should be assigned such signal honor as to accompany the verses that pronounce our very concept of God, hence the following explanation. But we've been talking for the last 2 months in Shemot and about our Batak and our trust in God and building a Dira Bitaktonim, this place where God can dwell in the lower realms, and how important. And when we talked about how we should be going over the Exodus from Egypt so much, we already touched these things. So, but it says here that there can be no question that for the Jewish people, the Exodus has to be an everlasting, unforgettable remembrance. This Mitzrayim is not only this geographical place, but it's our physical limitations, these Metzarim, and how every day we have to leave this Egypt of ours. So our sages even went so far as to incorporate the words in remembrance of the departure from Egypt in the Kiddush that ushers in every Sabbath and festival. Careful deliberation, moreover, will clearly show why they ascribe to it such singular significance. The Exodus, it must be recalled, is the story of a people enslaved for hundreds of years by a mighty nation. Although they were unarmed and overwhelmingly outnumbered, this enslaved people finally marched out to their freedom without having to resort to violence. And it was amazing where you couldn't even get one people past this guard that they had it, and yet 600,000 people had come out Such a beautiful story, and the story of our life and what God is doing for us right now, every single day, removing us from our limitations and taking us into Geula. Not only were they freed, but their departure was hastened by their erstwhile overlords, now terrified lest more plagues be meted out to them by the retributive justice of the God of Israel. All of the historical records disclose nothing to equal this unique event. The case of the miraculous redemption of the entire people, numbering over 2 million souls, each of them an eyewitness to the benevolence of divine providence. It was this event that convinced all the Jewish people beyond the shadow of a doubt that their faith in the God of their ancestors was well founded. It was the miracle of the Exodus that gave emphatic meaning to the word, the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Note carefully how the very first commandment connects the two. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So this is what we're talking about here with the Tefillin. We're doing the learning here. This is learning. This is Malava Malka. We had Shabbos. We had Shabbat day. All the observances that go with that. We need to pray daily. We can bring if you so desire. You can serve God with the ways that many people serve gods and the rationale that we do. But what we're going to talk about now is deed, primary importance. Okay. Saying within the space of this short discourse here, okay, it's impossible to go into the essential significance of tefillin. Already, a lot of you have been through this, but let's talk about where we're at for now and this thrust that we need going forth, and how we're trying to just motivate ourselves in this little bit, and how we don't need a whole treatise in 3 hours on tefillin. It is hoped, however, that this is going to suffice to show that tefillin, like all the other mitzvahs, when properly understood, makes a strong appeal to reason and conscience as well. But because the capacity to reason varies within individuals and is limited at best, combined with the fact that some do not have the time or the inclination to carefully study the Torah, Jews observe the mitzvah primarily because they are God's commandments, and not because and only when they appeal to reason. If reason approves, so much the better, but they should observe regardless because God gave them to us, and He surely knows what is best for us. Let us but apply the same sound common sense to these things as to similar matters in everyday life. The point will then become quite clear. Imagine a young child refusing to obey his parents because he could see no good reason for doing so at the time. The parents would have to disapprove of such an attitude and do everything in their power to correct it for the child's own good. In the course of time, the child thus corrected will come to appreciate how fortunate he was to have had the benefit of such intelligent parental guidance through those years when he was still too young to depend on his own limited understanding. A few laws of tefillin. Wow. One, a Jewish boy upon reaching his 13th birthday is regarded as a full-fledged. He then becomes a bar mitzvah, meaning that he is obliged to perform all the laws and customs of the Jewish people. One of these laws commanded us in the Torah is tefillin. Number two is customary to initiate the boy into the practice of donning tefillin 2 or 3 months before the actual date of his bar mitzvah. When purchasing a pair of tefillin, care should be taken to buy it from a dependable supplier in order to be sure that the tefillin are handwritten by a duly qualified scribe or chauffeur. Those not produced in conformity with the specified requirements of tefillin may not be used. Tefillin should be donned on weekdays only. On Shabbat and festivals, our deal, including Kol Moed, tefillin are not to be put on. You follow your community, or however that you do. We got a lot of people from Israel around. Y'all got a lot of things to consider there. In some congregations, however, tefillin are also donned on the Kol Moed. Tefillin are worn during the morning prayers. However, if for some reason it was impossible to do so in the morning, tefillin may still be put on later in the day, but not after sunset. Okay. The procedure for putting tefillin is as follows: the person should be standing according to our custom. He takes out the hand tefillin first and places it on the biceps of his left arm, so as to rest against the heart. Before tightening the strap, he recites the blessing. Then he fastens the strap. So the blessing is Lahoniach Tefillin, winding two coils over the leather extension of the hand tefillin in his arm. So he forms this letter, the shin, proceeding to make 7 coils on his forearm. Then this last one comes around. Then the rest of the strap is around his. Immediately afterwards, he takes out the head tefillin, places it on his head so that the box rests above the forehead and the knot rests above the neck. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Care should be taken to ensure that the box of the head, the tefillin, is placed properly above the head so that the lower edge of the box should not fall below the hair's roots, and that is centered at a midway point between the eyes. Having adjusted the head tefillin, he now unwinds the strap from his palm in order to make 3 coils on the middle finger. The first of the lower phalanx near the palm, the second on the middle phalanx, and the third back again on the lower. What do they call it? Phalanx. The remainder of the strap is then wound around the palm. He's doing additional blessing over the head tefillin, and then followed by Shem Kavod Malkus Olam Bayed. And there are also variations in the manner of winding the straps around the arm or the palm and the middle finger. It says here that the straps, both of the hand and head tefillin, must always be placed black side up. And during the act of putting on tefillin, it is prohibited to interrupt the procedure by conversation or gesture. The only interruption permitted is to answer amen when hearing someone else making the blessing over tefillin. If an unauthorized interruption was made, there's a blessing that should be recited when putting on the head tefillin. A lot of congregations, if this blessing is said in any case, it's also necessary to repeat the first blessing, the Lahoniach Tefillin. One who is left-handed, whether one is deemed left-handed in this case, should be ascertained from an Orthodox rabbi. Puts the hand tefillin on his right arm. The tefillin must be placed on upon the bare arm and head without anything intervening. If for some reason it is impossible to put the hand tefillin on, the head tefillin must be put on nevertheless, and vice versa. In each case, the respective blessing is recited. It is required that the person be constantly and respectfully aware of the tefillin while he is wearing them. It is customary to remove tefillin only after the conclusion of the entire morning service. At any rate, they must not be removed. On Rosh Kodesh, the tefillin are taken off before Musaf. On Kol HaMoed, if tefillin are done, they are taken off before Hallel. The procedure number 14 for removing the tefillin as follows: the person should be standing, according to our tradition. First, the middle finger is unwound and rewound around the palm. The head tefillin is then removed left hand and placed in a tefillin bag. Then the hand tefillin is removed and placed into the bag. It is customary to put the head tefillin on the right side and the hand tefillin on the left side of the bag. When a tallis is worn during the prayer should be put on first and then a tefillin. But when the prayer is concluded, the tefillin are removed first in the manner that we just said the tallis. Number 16. On Tish B'Av, the tefillin are not put on for the morning prayer, but for the afternoon prayer, Mincha. Number 17, the tefillin must be handled with due reverence. Should the tefillin accidentally fall on the floor, atonement is required by fasting or get charity. In such a case, a rabbi should be consulted as how the atonement should be made. And said our sages, he who carefully observes the commandment of tefillin daily merits long life in the world to come. So the tefillin scrolls must be inscribed by hand by a qualified scribe on special consecrated parchment. The boxes are produced in a highly specialized process from the leather of a kosher hide and are likewise specially consecrated for the use of tefillin. The boxes must be perfectly square. The straps and boxes must be dyed black with a special dye. And there are plenty of illustrations that are available online and to you in general. If you have and are using Siddur Tehillat Hashem, you can find all that in the back of your Siddur. Selachim, Selachim. L'chaim. I want to go into some aspects of Chabad Chassidism because this is a free translation, and let's get into it because by the time now, if you're at the 2-hour mark, I usually try to go into the mimer, but this is a letter from the Frierdiker Rebbe that is published, and I think it gives us a good basis of where we want to be approaching and how we want to come at this thing and what steps we're trying to do to bring Moshiach and how this is really lining up. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for being here with me. Thank you. Whew. I'm skipping the bio. This is by, I never heard of his name, is J.I. Schneerson, which is more appropriately in English. We're talking about Yosef Yitzchak, the Frierdiker Rebbe, the sixth Lubavitcher Rebbe. His appearance being most impressive, his beard of gold and silver, his kindly eyes, a majestic smile, leaving this unforgettable impression on all those who observed him at close range. But this part I thought was very characteristic of the Frierdiker Rebbe. It says, while benign and affectionate in his conversation with his numerous visitors, he could be gravely serious, fearless, and outspoken when touching upon any subject concerning the safeguarding of the religious observances or the economic improvement of his brothers, wherever they may be. And that's what we're here to do tonight. And that's why we are farbrengen. And that's why we save this portion for the last part. We want to get sometimes I'd like when I'd come and farbreng when I was a little bit, not younger per se, but sometimes you gotta get everybody else out the way so we can really, really farbreng and talk about some things. You know what I'm saying? So that's where we're at right now. And the Frierdiker Rebbe. This is a free translation of some aspects of Chabad Chassidism. L'chaim, l'chaim. We all know that a man has a soul by which he is distinguished from all other animals, which marks him as the choice of the entire creation. This soul, which is part of God, comes down to the earth by the will of God to vitalize the human being, so as to enable him to fulfill the purpose for which he was created, is created. The purpose of sending down the soul is to enable man to serve the Creator for man's own benefit as well as for the benefit of the surrounding world. The Jew can fulfill this purpose only by accepting the divine rule and fulfilling the commandments and precepts which God gave us on Mount Sinai. Thus, the religion of Israel is a divine gift, and as such it is in many aspects far beyond the grasp of such terrestrial beings as humans. However, the fact that we cannot fully understand all aspects of our religion does not affect the tie that exists between us and our God. For every Jew possesses an innate feeling which places his relationship to God on the level of that which exists between child and father. Indeed, it is written, ye are children unto God your God. Like a child who does not know at all how and why that particular man is its father, and that particular woman its mother, yet it is drawn to them by an inner feeling of love and devotion. So are Israel children unto God, imbued with an inner instinctive feeling that God is our strength and our life. The feeling is expressed in these words, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Eloheinu, Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, God is our God, God is one. The Jew feels that Hashem Eloheinu, God is our strength, Hashem Echad, He who is the one and only Creator. This divine instinctive feeling is alive in every Jew and Jewess, from the greatest to the most ignorant in the knowledge of the Torah. This is one of the fundamental principles expounded at length by the founder of Chabad Chassidism, the saintly Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi. Number two, the relationship between Israel and God through the medium of our religion is explained in the Zohar as followed. Three are interlocked together. Israel, the Torah, and the Holy One, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, blessed be He, and all are on different planes, one higher than the other, partly hidden, partly exposed. This comes from the Zohar, in the third Zohar, 73a. The meaning of this saying is that the three, Israel, the Torah, and God, are linked together like a chain of three rings, of which the upper part of the bottom ring is held by the lower part of the middle ring, and the upper part of the middle ring is held by the lower part of the top ring. In each of these three rings, there is a hidden part and a disclosed part. Similarly, there are apparent qualities and latent qualities in each of the three: Israel, the Torah, and God. Among the apparent qualities of Israel may be mentioned the intelligence, the inherent creator of the Jew, and the very nature of which he is distinguished from other peoples. To the latent qualities of Israel belong the original and hidden intellect lying in the very depth of the soul, and the pure, simple, and refined faith alive at the bottom of the heart of every Jew and the one and only Creator. As to the Torah, the part that is apparent is to be found in the logical interpretation of all the subjects of the Torah, embracing not merely all interests of man from his very birth until his last breath, even to the manner of his return to the earth whence he came, but also a full account of the creation and the progress of the world. The latent part of the Torah, on the other hand, lies in its divine intellect, which differs essentially from the human intellect and therefore cannot be fathomed. Number three, as in the case of Israel and the Torah, so in the case of God, there are the apparent or conceivable attributes and the hidden or inconceivable. What is conceivable of the divine being is that he creates and forms the universe and the creatures, and creating them from nothing, constantly vitalizing them, as it is written, he who in his goodness each day constantly renews the work of the creation. This means that God renews the existence of the world and all creatures constantly, creating and forming them from nothing every moment. In other words, the work of the creation is continuous, repeating itself in the same way as in the beginning of creation. King David, king of Israel, recognizes him that spoke, and there was the world by observing nature, as he frequently exclaimed, how great are thy deeds, are how many are thy deeds, according to the book of Psalms, 92nd chapter and 6th verse, and also Psalms 104th chapter, 24th verse. In the Psalms, he teaches us wisdom, understanding, and insight to recognize in nature and its beauty, its creator, our Father and King, blessed be his name. By this recognition, King David is moved to a sense of admiration for and devotion to the Creator, which he expresses so inspiringly in the saintly Psalms. And this is the secret of our prayers, which are in part composed of Psalms. The soul's expression of yearning and desire to cleave to the Lord of all the universe, the source of all life. What is inconceivable about the divine being is the essence and entity of the supreme creator. And what lies beyond the point of life creating life, as it has been said, not that is the essence of the divine being, that he creates worlds and create creatures and sustains them. It is written, from my flesh I visualize God. Man consists of body and soul, just as the soul fills the whole body and vitalizes it. So does God fill the whole world and vitalizes it. But can we say the entire essence and function of the soul is that it sustains the body? Similarly, we cannot say that it is the entire essence of God that he creates and sustains the world and all creatures. Here lies a great deal that is inconceivable to the human mind. However, the realization of the greatness of the Creator must move us to a longing and yearning to cleave to the Lord of all things. Number four. And this is the gist of the statement of the Zohar quoted above. Three are interlocked together: the Torah and the Holy One, blessed be He, Israel, the Torah, and the Holy One, blessed be He. And all are on three different planes, one higher than the other, partly hidden and partly exposed. Israel, the Torah, and God are joined together into complete union, as it is said, the Holy One, blessed be He, the Torah and Israel are all one, and their union comes about through the revealed and hidden qualities of each of them, mentioned above. However, the manner of their uniting is twofold. A, the revealed qualities of Israel unite with the revealed attributes of God by means of the revealed part of the Torah, and the latent qualities of Israel unite with the latent attributes of God by means of the latent part of the Torah. B, the revealed qualities of Israel, and the hidden quality of Israel in turn unite with the revealed part of the Torah. The revealed part of the Torah is connected with its hidden part, and this in turn unites with the revealed attributes of God. Finally, the revealed attributes of God are connected with his hidden attributes, and thus the union is completed. The common feature of these two manners of uniting is that both tend to reveal the concealed, which in itself creates nothing new, as the three rings mentioned above are essentially interlocked, even when they do not come to be revealed. Number 5. It follows, therefore, that the with God is extant in every one of Israel, man or woman, young or old, whether learned in the Torah or ignorant of it. At the same time, however, there are various factors which influence the feeling of the said union, either strengthening it or weakening it. This will be understood by an example. Two men are walking in a busy street, one of them deaf, and the other sound. The deaf person does not hear the sound of hooting or the exclamations of the drivers, but the healthy person does. However, when the noise of the traffic becomes exceedingly great, the healthy person too is deafened by the noise and hears no better than the deaf one. On the other hand, a deaf person can also notice signs and feel the actual touch. The tumult of worldly material life deafens the ears of reason and dulls the senses of the brain and heart. This is particularly true of youth born amid wealth and brought up into a life devoid of Torah and religion. In them and their like, the bonds of spiritual attachment are broken. Their ears become deaf to the word of God, to observing the practical precepts, and their eyes likewise are closed to behold the charm of God's Torah. Two causes may account for an impulse to teshuvah, repentance, and return to God: A, abundant good, and B, exceeding poverty. Although nowadays the cause of religious awakening is, to our regret and misfortune, very bitter, the effect, the return to God, to his religion and Torah, is sweet, showing that the Jewish heart is alive and the soul of old Israel is perfect. Number 6. One of the spiritual diseases of our generation is the habitual neglect of simplicity and the preference for so-called enlightenment and outer brilliance. The sons and daughters of Israel, of the enlightened and educated classes, are now, to be sure, eager to return to our religion and Torah, but they long for dewy brilliance of the wisdom, discernment, and insight of religion, which alone, in their opinion, could satisfy their souls and bring about their spiritual revival. But the real truth is that true revival lies in the fulfilling of the practical precepts, such as observing the Sabbath, family purity, kashrus, putting on tefillin, etc., and in stirring up one's consciousness, lying dormant at the bottom of one's heart to the love of God, love of Torah, and love of Israel. How good and useful it would be if the spiritual leaders of Israel were to devote special articles and books and periodicals to teach those who desire to return to the right path, which, as stated, lies in the fulfillment of the practical precepts, observing and practicing them with simplicity, like the rest of the sons and daughters of Israel. Thus, the main task of the Jewish scholars and rabbis everywhere is to make the Jews realize that the essential aspect of Judaism is keeping the practical precepts. One of the things that offers spiritual pleasure and delight is the sight of a beautiful painting. We all know that the most talented artist is the one who can ably express a simple, natural scene, such as a cornfield playing in the breeze, or the sight of sea waves, or the setting of the sun and rising of the moon upon a wide landscape crossed by a stream, and all of which the Creator implanted a simple natural beauty and a wonderful splendor. So it is also with regard to the worship of the Creator, blessed be He. Sincere worship by the practice of the ritual precepts with simplicity is worthier than all others and conceptions which have nothing but an outer brilliance. Number 7. Many stories and scores of Hasidic legends about our teacher and master, the saintly Rabbi Israel Baal Shem Tov, the Besht, the first exponent of general Chassidism, about his disciple, our teacher and rabbi, the Maggid, preacher of Meserich, and about my saintly ancestor, our old rabbi, Rabbeinu Hazachin, founder of Chabad Chassidism. Their saintly memory be blessed, and may their virtues be ever a shield unto us and all Israel, which came down to us from generation to generation, testify to their extraordinary love of simplicity and sincerity in the divine worship of the Jew. A story is told about our saintly rabbi, author of Tzemach Tzedek, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, 5549 through 5626, who was a famous Ga'an in Shas and Paskim, and was versed in the books of Kabbalah and the writings of the Ari. This for like, if you can obtain excellence at one of these things, would be like amazing. But the Tzemach Tzedek was the Gaon of Shas and Paskim and verse in the books of Kabbalah and the writings of the Ari. This is like a level never seen that is going to be explained. All night, the author of Tzemach Tzedek studied, and at dawn, he stood up to pray. After spending some hours in devout prayer, he sat down to study again, still wrapped in his tallis and tefillin. It was one day in the month of Sivan, and he was fasting that day. It being a market day, 2 Jews, inhabitants of a village in the neighborhood of Lubavitch, came to town. Their names were Benjamin Benush and Isaac Saul. Both were rather ordinary men, but very pious, and they came together in one wagon. Benjamin Benush sold his merchandise, and the day, being long yet, came into the synagogue to wait there for Isaac Saul, who, after selling his wares, would be passing that street in his wagon, and would, of course, turn into the synagogue for the Mincha afternoon prayer service, and therefore they would drive home together. On entering the synagogue, Benjamin Benush, a man of no learning, drew out a book of Psalms from his coat pocket and began reciting the Psalms in a touching voice. The saintly rabbi, sitting wrapped up in his tallis and tefillin, engrossed in study, soon perceived the voice reciting the Psalms. a voice coming from the depth of the heart, touching the very soul. The saintly rabbi turned round to see who it was and saw it was Benjamin Banish, the villager. He was touched to tears, envying the sincerity and simplicity of Benjamin, an ignorant villager. Just then, of Kopus entered, one of the most prominent Chassidim and the rabbi's father-in-law, the saintly Admor Emsai, Rabbi Dober, the son of the Rabbeinu Hazakan, who lived in the years 5535 through 5588. The rabbi said to the newcomer, I wish I could say even one verse of the Psalms with the simplicity and sincerity of Reb Binyamin Benush. How true are the words of the psalmist. The Lord is near to all who call unto him, to all who call unto him in truth. Number 8. The saintly Rabbeinu Hazakan, founder of Chabad Chassidism, says in one of his teachings that the main object of Chassidism is to mold one's character, i.e., that the essence of man's service must be concentrated on himself to mold his own character. Chabad Chassidism is a complete study, arranged in perfect order in its own style into a number of elementary, fundamental, and principal books written by the saintly fathers and founders of Chabad Chassidism. Each Nasi, like the head of Chabad, is called Nasi, prince, leader by the Chassidim, in his generation. The first Chassidim, the disciples and pupils of the saintly Rabbeinu Hazakan, were men eminent in the wisdom of the Torah and in piety, outstanding philosophers of divinity, and gifted with remarkable intellect and conception. It was to them that the saintly Rabbeinu Hazakan expounded the principles and doctrines of Chassidism. Number 9. In those days, these disciples were selflessly devoted to the study of divine wisdom, many hours in the day, many days and nights in the week, and weeks and months in the year they spent in seclusion. This seclusion was not regarded by them as anything in the nature of self-torture or sorrowful castigation. On the contrary, it was a source of a special pleasure to them, from which they derived great spiritual joy and delight. For in it and through it, they were not merely getting away from the earthly material swamp, but what is even more, were ascending the path leading perfect purity, in order that they might see the light of God with a clear intellect and conception. Among these disciples were several of a unique type, who had nothing at all to do with earthly and corporal matters, for all their being, spirit and soul, was devoted to striving to ascend the mount of God and reaching the highest peak. These unique and outstanding men, though few in number, exercised nonetheless considerable influence on the wide sections of the pupils below them, extent of it becoming proverbial, even among the average students, that the object of man is the victory of the spirit over the matter, i.e., the victory of idealism over materialism. This motto, the victory of the spirit over the matter, does not present a defined task, but varies in each individual according to one's standing and station. Nevertheless, it clearly indicates that every man must strive to attain a higher standard. Oh, pardon me, God bless you. And should yearn and strive to rise step by step in thought, word, and deed in the acquisition of the highest virtues in the attainment of spiritual perfection. This motto won thousands upon thousands of men and women of all ranks of Jewish people into the camp of Chassidim. The doctrines of Judaism and of Chabad Hasidism are nothing but an explanation of and clear indication to the meaning of the verse, all the earth is full of his glory, according to Isaiah in the 6th chapter and the 3rd verse. Based on two principles: A, everything is a divine being, and B, the divine being is everything. The principles of general Hasidism teach us that there is no space devoid of him, and no thought can conceive him. whilst Chabad Chassidism explains at great length and expounds with the aid of abundant scientific examples what is meant by there is no space devoid of him, though no thought can conceive him, it is nevertheless the duty of man to seek enlightenment in the wisdom of God and to understand and conceive it to the best of his intelligence, as it is written, Thou shalt know this day and reflect in thy heart that the Lord is God in the heavens above and upon the earth below. There is no other. The book of Deuteronomy, 4th chapter, 39th verse. In the course of 10 years since the first disciples left the Beis HaMidrash of the saintly Rabbeinu Hazakan and settled in various districts all over the country, each man in his vicinity had set up a lighthouse, spreading the light of Chabad Hasidism, teaching the Jewish people to worship the Creator, blessed be He, in a spirit of intelligent recognition and conception. Those Chassidim preached as well as practiced the word of God according to the teachings of Chassidism, which was their guide in daily life. Number 11. One who is acquainted with the history and manner of the life of the Jews in Russia, Poland, and Voiland in those days knows of that pure religious sincerity which shone so brightly in the Jewish house. Everything connected with Sabbath observance and the practice of ritual precepts, not to mention such matters as faith in God and love for the Torah and the commandments, was practiced by them with great warmth and with an absolutely selfless devotion. It is not surprising, therefore, that as soon as the doctrines of Chabad Hasidism were revealed, its students and exponents, those noted Hasidim, exercised a great influence even on those whose intelligence could not grasp the Hasidic theory, but who became attached to practical Hasidism, the victory of the spirit over the matter, with all their heart, soul, and being, and with utter self-sacrifice. This selfless devotion to the Hasidim, to Hasidism, caused not merely among the Hasidim of heart and intellect, but even among the practical Hasidim, the appearance of new features in their character, of an inner glow and vitality, which they passed on to their children from generation to generation. The Hasidic community grew and struck roots among the wide sections of our people, and 40 years after the saintly Rabbeinu Hazakim founded Chabad Hasidism in the years 5534 through 5574, the saintly Admar Emtzai already wrote Hasidic discourses in the spoken language, Yiddish. Number 12. The volumes on Chabad Hasidism of the first three generations reflect the growth of the Hasidic community, and it's getting a firm foothold among all the sections of our people. The first generation and its Nasi, the saintly Rabbeinu Hazakin, some of his printed works on Hasidism are the Lakute Amarim, the Tanya, the Gleanings or the Lectures, the Torah Or, the Torah Light, the Lakute Torah, the commentaries on the Zohar, and the prayer book and the commentaries that were available in 2 volumes. The second generation, and it's not Nasi, the saintly Admar Emsai. Some of his printed works are Sayings of Wisdom, commentaries on the prayers, Law of Life, the Sha'ar HaMuna, which is the gate of faith, the gate of unity, the gates of light, the gate of penitence, 2 volumes, the path of life, Derech HaChaim, a study on inspiration and opening the eyes of the blind in the spoken language, Yiddish. Thank God we have these things available, even English now. The third generation, and it's Nasi, the saintly author of Samak Tzedek. Some of his printed works on the Chassidim are the Path of the Commandments, the Path of Faith, the Light of Torah. This Or HaTorah was a very big thing for the Samak Tzedek. During the 150 years since the appearance of the first work, the Likutei Amarim, the Tanya, as an open writ to all the Chassidim, the teachings of Chabad Chassidism, spread over the whole wide world by means of various the Maimarim, these Chassidic discourses. However, the study of Chassidicism requires a preliminary training and preparation in piety and in the practice of the precepts, which is the foundation of the Torah and the basis of existence of the Jewish people. Conclusion: the theoretical aspects of Chabad Hassidicism form a well arranged study explaining that all the earth is full of his glory. Whoever is gifted with intellect and reason can learn it. However, the wisdom of Chabad can only be acquired after suitable preparation in the worship of God and the practice of the religious duties. For Chabad Hassidicism, like general Hassidicism, is the soul of our Torah and religion. There can be no soul without a body, and the body is the exercise of the religious precepts. The study of Chabad Hassidicism, like any intellectual study, can be taken up anywhere and at any time and depends solely upon the intellect and the heart of the teacher and student. But the primary prerequisite for this study, both for teacher and student, is an adequate preparation in the exercise of the religious precepts, which is as necessary to the understanding of Chabad as the soil and light are vital to the flourishing rose. There can be no question that the study of Chabad Hassidicism would be of great benefit to those who would devote themselves to learn it. However, each art and science demands the fulfillment of certain conditions before it can be fully mastered. It is the sacred task of the rabbis and scholars of Israel in all lands to bring to the realization of the intellectual sons and daughters of Israel that true return to God means the exercise of the religious precepts, such as keeping Sabbath and holidays, eating kosher food, putting on tefillin, observing family purity, etc., and that the main thing about this practice is to observe it with simplicity and sincerity. For this simplicity and sincerity has always attested to the beauty, perfection, and stoutness of the heart of old eternal Israel. May our God, God of our fathers, guardian of his people Israel, enlighten our intellect and awaken our heart and the hearts of all the sons and daughters of Israel to serve him sincerely and devotedly and observe his commandments, and may he hasten our redemption through our Messiah, the righteous Redeemer, speedily in our days. Amen. Okay. We're so fortunate to have these writings, and this is only but a gleaming. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. With blessings for a wonderful week. May you just have revealed blessings. May every desire of your heart be granted. May every limitation, every Mitzrayim, Metzarim be removed from you each day. May you come out of it, and may we all be able to apply these wonderful teachings that are before us. Enjoy a most beautiful week. We'll continue with the learning as soon as we can. Please continue to stay tuned. Thank you for joining. Live from Arizona, Yisrael Boykin, 602-338-0129. Thank you.